This is the newest video of this series of video on my compassion playlist, and I've numbered every video, and I invite you to please watch all the previous videos before watching this one to better understand what I'm about to say, discuss in this video. So all the conflicts in the world, all the arguments are basically this: one party saying to the other, you shouldn't have done this, you should have done that, you shouldn't have said this, you should have said that, you shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing something else. And the other party would say exactly the same. You shouldn't have said this, you should have said that, you should have done this, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing something else. This is exactly what arguments and conflicts are. From the smallest conflicts in the world, which are between just two people, to the biggest ones, that'd be between two nations. And all of these conflicts are based on this one principle, which is the core point of this whole series, which is the false assumption of the lack of necessity behind behind anything that anyone does. And to understand this is extremely simple. Just tell yourself, imagine if you had experienced every single moment of somebody else's life from their birth to this very point. You would have done exactly every single thing that they've ever done in their whole life. And the fact that they have done everything that they have ever done in their life proves this point. Had you experienced every single moment of somebody's life from birth to this point, had you experienced every single thought they've ever had, had you experienced the whole content, everything that they have ever experienced in life, you would have done exactly the same things that they have done. And the very reason that we have conflicts with each other is that we only live in our own life experience. This makes perfect sense. It's self-evident. Every single thing happens in our experience of our own life. Everyone walks around being immersed in their own life, their own thoughts, memories, their own identities, their own unique perception, ways of seeing this world. That's all what a person is. And because of that, other people's life, like the existence of other people's unique and totally different life experiences, are literally non-existent to our awareness, because all that we get to be aware of is our own life experience. If we don't get a chance to or the insight, the epiphany to realize that other people experience totally uniquely and extremely valid life experiences, just as how we have lived our own lives. They have lived their lives, and their lives are completely different from ours. Like maybe some people have similar life experiences like ours, and these people we get to be friends with, because we would find so many things we have in common, right? That's how you get to be friends with some people, because you share things, because you have a common ground where you can understand each other. Imagine there's somebody that you just absolutely cannot understand, and you would find them weird, strange, or like an alien. Or if they just happen to do something that you consider to be terrible, and they will become your enemy. For you to have friendship or connection with somebody, there has to be a common ground on which some level of understanding can be achieved. And conflicts, arguments happen exactly when this common ground is lost. Related to the topic, the matter where the conflicts happen. Like, you can argue with your best friend, obviously, and it is exactly about the thing where you don't have a common ground. Otherwise, you would be understanding each other. As long as you're understanding each other fully, there's no space, no room for conflicts. Conflicts happen when you are so immersed, you forget that the person in front of you has just as much right and necessity to do what they need to do as much as you need to do what you need to do. And you cannot agree on something. You cannot see each other here. You are just so immersed in just experiencing your life and expressing your perception. You just are not seeing each other. That's where conflicts happen. Conflicts happen when you cannot fully see each other. The more you cannot see the other, the bigger the conflict gets. And the solution is easy. Is to hold this knowledge firmly and fully that every single thing that anybody in this world has ever done has an absolute subjective necessity behind it. And for more details, please watch the previous videos. I believe you have. And I would like to remind you and myself again that this necessity that I've been talking about throughout these videos is highly time-bound. Because our mind is like a river. It changes every single moment. At this very moment, you might have this need to do something very much. Like, at this moment, I might just feel so much anger that I want to punch somebody in the face, and I punch them, but the next second, I immediately regret. Immediately I lose that necessity. So I look back at myself when I punch that person, and I judge myself because I can no longer understand that self anymore. Because that self at that moment anymore. So that's where judgments arise. That's where conflicts arise. Not only between people, but within yourself. When you lose the knowledge that every single thing that you've ever done has the absolute necessity behind it, and it's subjective, it's highly time-bound. And in fact, there is no objective necessity. When it comes to what someone should do, it's always your own subjective necessity. It's never an objective necessity. Whenever you're calling a subjective necessity of yours as an objective necessity, you are imposing your life experience on somebody else. For example, you go out and see somebody spit, and for you, you think they don't have to spit. That's why you get angry, because you think they're doing this just to make you mad, just to ruin the environment. And then you think it's absolutely objectively necessary that this person shouldn't have spit or cannot spit anymore. And now you've completely You are perceiving this whole situation fully and completely from your own life experience. Through your own life experience. You're fully immersed in your own life experience. You've completely lost the understanding of the fact that this person in front of you carries around their own life experience, which decides that they should have spit. Otherwise, they shouldn't. And if it truly was an objective necessity that this person shouldn't have spit, then they wouldn't have. If it was objective, then it would be the same for everyone. It's like, this is an apple in my hand. It is an apple for everyone. For everyone. But really, these are not, there are only 2 points that you should remember. Which is that all the condemnation, blaming, conflicts, arguments, judgments, criticism are all based on this false assumption of the lack of necessity behind anything that anyone has ever done. And to understand this, you just need to tell yourself, had I experienced every single moment of somebody's life from birth to this point, I would have done exactly what they have done. Every single thing that they have, every single thing they have ever said, every single thing they've ever done in their life. There's no room for misunderstanding. There's no room for conflicts. There's just compassion. It's automatic. You need to be aware that this is something that applies to yourself, within yourself as well. When you judge yourself, when you criticize yourself, when you blame yourself, you are falsely assuming the lack of necessity behind something that you have done. And you have lived your life, every single moment of your life, to that point where you have done that thing. And right now, you look back at that, you lost that highly time-bound necessity to have done that thing at that moment. You lost understanding of you at that moment. That's why you judge yourself. The world is changed by this shift, fundamental shift of perceiving other people and ourselves. In fact, you don't even need to think about doing anything else other than fully applying this knowledge deeply and permanently into your life. You don't have to worry about anything else. You just do this alone. You would see how everything else just unfolds following this, and how positive changes just happen. How, for example, when you have absolute unconditional compassion for everyone, including yourself, problems resolve on their own. You do not need to think about anything else other than applying this knowledge. This is something you need to practice, not just think about. But I do understand that you just might just have to ask some questions, like, what about criminals? So they absolutely just had to do what they had to do, like the terrible things that they did that hurt so many people. Well, this applies to everyone. This knowledge here applies to absolutely everyone. Had you lived the life of any criminal from the beginning of their birth to this very point, had you experienced every single thought they've ever had, every single moment, had you experienced every single moment of their life, you would have done exactly what they have done. In fact, the very reason that people would want to do so many things to hurt others is because they have been hurt so much. Imagine a person fully loved, fully embraced and welcomed from birth. Can you imagine someone like that do just something terrible? You can't. Imagine yourself have been fully loved every single moment of your life. You've never been hurt, ever. Ever. You've always only been loved. All you know to do is love. Because you wouldn't feel the necessity of hurting ever. And where exactly does all this hurt? Where did it come from? It came from exactly our ignorance of other people's lives. Whenever we judge someone, we're hurting them by unseeing their life, by denying their life, by when you ask someone to do something else than what they want to do, or to have done something different than what they have done, you're totally ignoring the life they had lived that led to the point when they had to do the thing that you disagree. Because why you disagree? Because you've only lived your life, and according to your life, this thing, they should have done it differently. But according to their life, they should exactly have done that. You know, this is the foundation of every single conflict. And this is where all hurt happen. Because we are so immersed and only aware of our own life experience. Every single thing that happens, that we experience, is within our own life experience. We're looking at the world through this fake filter of our own life. We're perceiving, every one of us perceives the world totally differently because we each have a very unique life experience that nobody else gets to live. You don't ever get to live somebody else's life, and it's not necessary for you to, because now you understand that had you lived their life, you would have done exactly the same. This is crystal clear. There's nothing that you can deny. The very fact that they have done everything they have done in their life proves this point. The very fact that you have done everything you've done in your life proves this point. Had you lived another person's life, had you experienced every single moment of their life from birth to this point, you would have done exactly everything they've ever done, everything they've ever said. And some people say, this is sad. seems like destiny. No, the sad part is when you lose this knowledge, whenever you are not fully aware of this. This is where the sad part begins. And the sad part is not that the people just have to do whatever they have done. The sad part only lies in when you lose this knowledge. Whenever you start to assume at all, to any extent, that somebody just didn't have the full necessity of doing something. But just when that happens, just remind yourself, had you lived their life? Have you lived their life? No. Had you lived their life from the beginning of the birth, had you experienced every single moment of their life, you would have done exactly everything that they've done, including all the judgments they have had against themselves. You would have all the judgments against yourself just as well had you been them, had you lived their life as them. And that's not where the sadness is. The sadness lies in when you lose this knowledge, when you are not fully aware of this, when you start to judge, condemn, blame, and you feel so justified, right? Whenever with whoever you feel that it's absolutely justified for you to condemn someone, to blame someone, that's where the sadness is. Including when that happens for you, when you judge yourself. But I'm being serious here, but I want to ask you to really be aware here that when you catch yourself judge others or yourself, don't beat yourself up for this. Because when you do, sometimes you really just lose this knowledge. You suddenly just forget everything that we've been talking about in this video. It happens to me as well. And you would just judge somebody, like somebody does something, and you just immediately get angry and you judge them. And you shouldn't have done this. And you get into conflict with them, blah, 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 blah. Everything we talked about in this video. And then later on you look at yourself, you look back at yourself and you judge yourself for having judged other people because I have watched these videos, I have understood this point, and how come I just did it again? No, I shouldn't have done it again. Look, you are just doing it again now. I shouldn't have done it. No, you should have done exactly what you have done, because at the moment when you're judging somebody else, at that moment your mind is just somehow just don't remember these videos, It happens. It's just what it is. It is what it is. It's not sad. The sad part is when you start to judge yourself. The sad part is when you look back at yourself and judge yourself. When you look back at yourself and judge and criticize yourself, or when you look back at somebody and criticize and judge what they have done and blame them and condemn them, that very moment is sad. But as soon as it passes, it's gone. It's the past. The very moment that you're judging somebody, this is where it's sad. But when it's past, let it pass. Because there's absolute necessity behind every single thing, including every single judgment that has ever happened. I guess with this message, this whole information here just asks you really to be present, be aware. To not get lost in the past, to not get lost in judging somebody for something, or either the future or the past. But right now, are you fully embracing this knowledge that we've been talking about? Same for me as well, I'm a really emotional person, and very judgmental myself, and I judge people all the time, and myself as well. These videos are not just made for the viewers, but also for myself. I love to repeat them every single day until I just can never forget them. And I do practice them in my mind. And I do realize this is resistance there. Because this whole thing, this whole conditioned way of perceiving other people and blaming them, it's just so conditioned. We're so used to it. It's automatic. It happens automatically. And it feels itself. It's like a closed logical loop. Oh, this person did this, and this makes me sad, so I blame this person, and this, so I get mad and I blame this person, blah, blah. It's like a loop is closed. And because we've done it like a million times in our life, so it's like we're so used to it. It's even like a physical part of our brain now. So whenever I catch myself doing that, and I remind myself that had I lived their life, blah, 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 I just feel this resistance in me. I just feel like there's a part of me that says, I don't want to listen to that now. I want to blame this person now. I want to be mad. And I want to blame this person because this is what I'm used to. I've been doing this a million times and I'm familiar with this. This is easy, effortless. Now you're making me do something I'm not used to. You're just trying to tell me something I've never thought about. I'm not used to think the other way around. I guess it would be the same for you. Just don't give up, you know? I think this is something you just cannot unsee, cannot unknow, this thing. We've been talking about, you know it now, you cannot unknow it, and this is completely liberating. This is the most liberating news that you've ever had. Well, this isn't the most liberating news that I've ever had. The first most liberating news I've ever had learned was through watching all the near-death experience interviews. It led me to see how it's proven that there is no death. And then the second most liberating news that I've ever had was, I'm not sure if anybody watching this video is open-minded enough to hear all this yet. But I'm someone that's highly evidence-based when it comes to new things that challenges my old beliefs, such as I was a physicalist. And all the evidence that I've learned from these videos, I think you should watch. You can find these videos in my playlists. The interviews, the accounts about afterlife. I'm not talking about bullshit. I'm talking about solid scientific studies, peer-reviewed, and decades long. Begin there. If it's time for you, if you're open, if you're willing. You know, I cannot blame anybody anymore. You know, I'm such an intense person. I found this knowledge, you know, I learned about near-death, and I just want to spread the message. And then during the process, I just felt like people are so close-minded because they think I'm talking about bullshit because they're so holding on to their old beliefs that they just try every way to dismiss everything that I try to spread here. And I used to just blame and judge them. They're so close-minded, so stupid, so ignorant. It just made me so upset, frustrated, and so mad at them. I just want to punch them in the face. But now with this, I guess I can't no longer, because had I lived their life, had I had every single thought they've ever had I experienced every single moment of their life, I would have been exactly the same. I would have been just as dismissive. And I should totally understand this. So if you're not open, it's all right. If you feel caught, if you're drawn to what I just said, just search for near-death experience on YouTube, or more conveniently, you just look at my playlist. I've collected the best interviews, the best scientific studies. I put them into 2 different playlists. You can find them in my YouTube channel. There are many, many of them. Many videos. And pick one. If you're more sciencey, pick the scientific studies playlist. If you find yourself more open-minded, you don't necessarily need the scientific evidence. Just go for the interviews about near-death interviews, like the other playlists. You would know, like the 2 biggest playlists in my YouTube channel, right here. I guess I've said everything. Okay, it's another half an hour video. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.